Welcome back to the second in a series of short videos on how to use video conferencing software such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WhatsApp, or Skype, to name a few. My name is Roselle Bowerman, and these videos are made possible by Diversity Resource International. In the last video, we learned what terms such as digital communication, video conferencing, hardware, and software means. We learned the advantages and disadvantages of using video conferencing, and we learned what to look for when choosing the best video conferencing software. You'll also find a short how-to video showing you how to download the video conferencing software Zoom. It's important to note that these videos aim to give you more information so that you can become a confident host. It should be useful for both confident and novice users of this type of communication. I also share some of my tips and advice for hosting business meetings or webinars in a later video. In this video, we will explore the importance of privacy and security when choosing your video conferencing platform and for hosting your online meetings. I think it's important to cover privacy and security first, as this is a concern for many and a barrier to people using video conferencing software such as Zoom. I hope this video will help you break some of those barriers and answer some of those questions and make you feel more confident and comfortable with using Zoom. Let's begin. There is a big difference between privacy and security, and it's important to understand what that difference is. Data security is focused on preventing unauthorized access to data via breaches or leaks or unauthorized parties. And so organizations like Zoom use certain tools and certain technologies to stop that from happening. So that means they will have things like firewalls, user authentication, network limitations, they will have encryptions and built-in devices and systems to stop data from being unauthorized used. Privacy is different because privacy has to do with the sharing of data. So an easy way to explain that is if you're in a meeting, you can lock the doors and come into that meeting, and that room is now secure and no one can access it, no one can get into it. But privacy means that anybody who takes information within that room can now take it out of the room and go and share it with other parties. In the same way, digitally, that is the difference between privacy and security. When we're looking to choosing or using software, we have to look at both of these, both security and privacy, to make sure that we put the best processes in place to make sure our data is private as well as secure. When it comes to privacy, this is generally where there are issues with using digital technology to communicate, particularly in certain industries where sensitive information is being shared. There has to be processes in place outside of the software to make sure that there is GDPR laws in place, data protection in place to make sure that information, sensitive information, is not shared, not just digitally, but through word of mouth or in any other way, as I explained. Most video conferencing software are pretty equipped when it comes to security. Zoom and WhatsApp recently have announced that they've implemented end-to-end encryption in all their communication. Well, without going into too much detail, end-to-end encryption means that the message that's been sent is sent in such a way that it's not readable until it reaches the end user. In a digital term, think of it as information that is going through as a lot of code, and by the time it lands on your WhatsApp or Zoom, it comes out and it's perfectly readable to you, but it wouldn't be to any other device because it was sent specifically to the end user. It's a simple way of explaining what end-to-end encryption means. It's another form of security that makes sure that no one else can see what you're transmitting over the internet. So in the real world, end-to-end encryption wouldn't work because it would be like taking a file or a document and traveling from one place to another and giving it to a person in their hand. All along the way, something can happen. You can drop it, someone can steal it from you, or it can go missing. But in the digital world, that is possible. That essentially is what end-to-end encryption is. From a privacy and security process, most digital communication is actually pretty secure. Software can put certain measures in place to stop people from sharing information. So that would be things like sharing documents securely on the internet with a secure password, or where someone's Zoom account has been breached and they have managed to get into their account and arranged meetings or send out invitations to meetings that they don't have the authority to. So naturally, one of the first things to do in stopping this from happening is to make sure that your Zoom account is secure. That means using a secure login and passwords. Don't use a password that you would use for everything, because common passwords, if they're breached, it means the unauthorized user can have access to many of your digital devices. So that's the first thing. The second thing is don't share your Zoom account with too many unauthorized users, particularly in companies. Quite often in large companies, you have one Zoom account and many people will have access to create meetings in that account, and that can create an added security issue when somebody leaves or another person can be breached. So be very aware of who you share your Zoom account with and your login details with. My advice is every user should have its own password and login for the same company account. The third thing is to have good data protection policies in place if you're using Zoom for a business. It should be across the board, not just digitally, but in general. Have rules and policies in place so that people can know what they can and can't share. If you are working for a company, speak to your data protection officer or human resource manager, or the person responsible for online securities and systems and data policies in the company, and make sure you have a copy of your company's data protection policies. If you are self-employed or you are using video conferencing as a business tool to communicate or teach or to instruct, you should get familiar with the government data protection policies by visiting their website online to make sure that you are aware of what you should do to manage data that is shared or stored online. Don't let privacy or security stop you from using video conferencing software like Zoom to communicate. As I've mentioned before, most video conferencing software has systems and tools in place to make sure that your information is safe and the environment is secure. As a host, it is your responsibility to make sure that sensitive information is kept private and safe. It's your responsibility to make sure that you do not share information outside of the platform or with the audience. And it's your responsibility as a host to make sure that you store sensitive or private information safely and securely, and do not share that with any parties without authorization. Reassure your guests and make sure you tell them that whatever private information they share with you or conversations that you have, that they can trust you. Now that we've discussed security in general, let's have a look at some Zoom security settings that you can manage from your Zoom account.
I'll run you through some security settings that you can access directly from an ongoing meeting, as well as settings that you can set in your Zoom account in advance, depending on the type of meeting you would like to have. Think of it this way. If you were hosting a business meeting in a private place, such as a restaurant, you'd want to ensure that there are measures in place where you can discuss private matters without anyone else in the room hearing what you're saying. In the same way, if you're hosting a private party, you'd want to make sure that there's security so no unwanted guests can come into the party. Finally, if you were to host an open house, a webinar, you'd still want to ensure that you take care of rude or disrespectful guests that upset the rest of your guests. In the same way, the host is responsible for the security of our online environment. Most of the security settings can be controlled prior to your meeting in your account or user settings, but let's have a look at some of the basic security settings that you have access to within a meeting. When you're the host of the meeting, you will be able to see the meeting information at a glance. On the left-hand side of your Zoom screen, you'll see a green armor with a tick through it. If you hover or click on that button, it will give you the information of that Zoom meeting. When you click or hover over that meeting information, you'll be able to see all the information that you need for the Zoom meeting. At the bottom, you'll see a tab that says Security Settings Overview. Once you click on that, it will give you all the information that this meeting is currently enabled or disabled. This is basically the security settings you've set for this meeting prior to starting the meeting in your settings. If you want to change any of these settings, you'd have to do it from your account. You do, however, have access to security matters that you can change. This can be found on the Security tab at the bottom of your dashboard. Next to Participants, there is a Security button. When you click or hover over that, you'll be able to make change to some of the security features available during the meeting. Here you can lock a meeting. Locking the meeting keeps new participants from joining the meeting. Enabling the waiting room means that incoming or new participants will go into a waiting room instead of joining the meeting directly. By disabling it, anybody joining the meeting late will be able to come straight into the meeting. The benefit of having a waiting room is particularly useful if you have large meetings, and so to minimize disruption, you might want to put people into a waiting room and then let them in groups rather than one by one, where it's disrupting your meeting. On the security settings, you're also able to allow participants to share their screens. You allow participants to use the chat function depending on the type of meeting that you want. For instance, if you have a very large meeting and you don't want participants to interrupt, you may want to use the chat feature, which would allow your guests to send you messages during the meeting, privately or to the group, without interrupting the meeting. You could allow participants to rename themselves, or as a host, you may not want to rename participants, as you as a host would like to keep control within that feature. For me, for instance, this is a particularly useful function because sometimes in teaching younger students, they may come on shared Zoom account and you would want to identify the student by their own name. So it's a function that would allow the host to set the name of the participant instead of the younger viewer to put their nickname or their dog's name or something like that. So it all depends on how much control the host would want. As a host, you also have the ability to allow participants to unmute themselves without the host's permission. Again, it depends on the type of meeting. The host may want full control of muting or unmuting participants, particularly if it's a large meeting and you want as the host to have control over who speaks, or if it's a webinar and you only want the speakers to have full control of the microphones and the rest of the audience to be muted. Similarly, you can also allow participants to start their videos in the meeting or remain without their videos, depending on the type of meeting that you have. If someone disrupts your meeting, you can immediately suspend all participant activities and lock the meeting so no one else can join. If you identify the disruptor, you can eject that participant from the meeting and the Zoom security team can be notified. This feature might be particularly useful if, say, you are in a meeting and there's a safeguarding issue. So for instance, whilst I'm presenting to younger viewers, somebody may come into that room and you identify a safeguarding issue where a parent or another viewer disrupts the meeting. And so then you may want to suspend participant activities until you're able to get the meeting back into control. Or if you have a disruptive or aggressive person in a meeting, you are able to immediately suspend the participant activities again until you have the meeting in control and rejoin the meeting. Like any digital platform, there's always a possibility that security can be breached. This doesn't mean that it will happen to you. It's just to give you the information so when anything does happen, you know what to do. It's like saying your house could be broken into. So you put security measures in place, like an alarm, neighborhood watch, or security cameras, just to make you feel safer and more confident. And if anything does happen, it does affect your confidence. I believe that information is key to assure you and to give you options of what to do, not to make you fearful or to make you worried about things that could possibly happen, because that's not anything we have any control over. You cannot control on whether you are going to get hacked or breached on that particular day, on that particular time. If you have been compromised in any way online, it is not your fault. And I hope that it doesn't affect your confidence in the long term, that you can move forward from it and that you can learn from it and that you can put some measures in place to stop that from happening again. Scammers are working hard at their end to try and find ways to overcome all the security measures and new ways of breaching, but we will continue to find new ways of stopping them. And this video is helping you with doing that and giving you the confidence to still live your life in a digital world without worrying. Now let's look at the security changes you can make before you start your meeting. To do this, you need to sign into your Zoom account settings. Once you've logged into your account and you head over to settings, you'll see that the first section that comes up is security. Zoom now secures all their meetings with at least one security option. And so the first message that you will see is that Zoom requires all meetings that are secured with one of the following options: a passcode, a waiting room, or an only authenticated users, which can join the meetings. So if none of these options are enabled, Zoom will secure it with the first option, which is the waiting room. Let's watch a video from Zoom explaining the difference between these three options.
As you guys know, Zoom is continuously striving to deliver a safe and secure meeting environment for both you and your users. So you may notice a few new safety features that have been turned on your account. Along with enabling waiting rooms, we will now require a join password for any instant meetings and scheduled meetings moving forward. Let's go ahead and start by looking at what your new meeting invitations will include. This original meeting invitation does not have passwords included in the join links. So let's take a look at how a secure meeting invitation will now look like. As you can see, you have your one click to join meeting with the password included here and all other password protected join options below. Now I'm going to show you two ways that your attendees can join your password protected meeting. In this example, I was invited to a virtual math class. Since I already have a Zoom account, I can click the success link with the password included and I get placed in Dina's waiting room. Dina is the host of this meeting, and in order for me to get in, she has to accept me from her waiting room. The second way attendees can join is by using simply the meeting ID. You can use it by clicking the Join a Meeting button on the Zoom client without signing in. And then the password prompt will follow, which is also found in the meeting invitation. Regardless of if your attendees have a Zoom account or not, they will still get placed in the host waiting room. That all to say, with password protection on and waiting rooms enabled, you now have 2 safeguards to fight against a funnel of uninvited guests trying to get into your meetings.
As you can see, Zoom recommends that you have 2 of the 3 options enabled, the waiting room as well as the passcode. When you scroll down, there's further settings that you can choose from to make your meetings more secure. I would recommend, though, for your personal use, having the waiting room enabled or the passcode enabled is adequate. And for a business meeting, if you have the passcode and the waiting room enabled, that would give you additional security as well. Now you can see that when you go to schedule a meeting, you can see that I have selected the passcode, the waiting room, and the authentication to join. I can also go and remove those now and only have the waiting room enabled and save my meeting. If you want some more information on some of the other security features within Zoom, have a look at the Zoom support, which is on the right-hand corner next to resources. This concludes our second video on security within video conferencing software. In my next video, I'm going to take you through some steps on how you can prepare in advance for your meetings, sending out invitations, lighting, camera position, and action. Take care and see you in the next episode.